Good morning, everyone. Welcome along to Sunrise Daily. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Okay.
Since Marco not there yet.
Yeah, but we'll get to say how soon. Well, I think, look, we had a lot of mails, messages.
Quite a feedback.
Yeah.
Quite a loaded one.
Yeah, and we did say we were going to take them. We'll find time to take them. So that we'll start off with today, because you never know how much more could come in again today. So
even at that, we're not likely to be able to take everything, because it was quite a lot of reactions yesterday.
Yeah. So yes, much as we acknowledge all of you who sent in messages. Well, we'll start with this one from Musa Siam, who says our leaders must apply restraints in what they say. I wonder why people apply for certificates of occupancy to occupy lands even in their state of origin in Nigeria, and we're saying there is a special group of people that can settle anywhere without permit. Weapons were mopped up from all other Nigerians, but some have the right to carry theirs in self-defense. Yet we say this people are not Nigerians. Who does the governor want to impress in making such a statement? Nigeria seems to be heading for the precipice if our leaders talk anyhow.
Well, this one is from Daria Jibike, and it's talking about the farmer-herder crisis. My point is, can't herders buy land personally and use as grazing areas? If I'm going to go into crop farming in any part of Nigeria, first thing to do is to acquire land, either by purchase or loan. I'm sure buying their own land will reduce herders and farmer clashes. I think there's a need to give people some understanding of what the grazing areas are. They were there for very many years.
Take a look at Adekola. Says the forestry law in Bauchi State is not really different from the forestry law in Ondo State. Settlement or farming or grazing without governmental permission is forbidden. These laws should be properly enforced in Ondo State, Bauchi State, Benue State, and others, as most states in Nigeria have the statutes. They've got similar laws, basically.
Absolutely. Well, these tweets, the first one is from Abdulkadir Nasidi, who says, about the National Livestock Program, based on the analysis of Governor Lalong, we might not be expecting implementation of the Livestock Program anytime soon. And with 2023 elections around the corner, just might be a repeat of 2019. But I suggested commercialization of ranching.
Otosu says about kidnapping and banditry, a nation where government can now beg kidnappers and also grease their palms. A sad commentary indeed.
Check out Abiodun Oladejoye's comment on fuel price. If Labour is convinced there is a better way to arrive at a cheaper fuel price, let the body confront the government with it, and let Nigerians also know to appreciate what they are doing.
Well, Amodu says, look, about the same petrol price. It's just like exporting cassava to import Gary, so they don't understand it, why that will be the case. Or
what a simplistic way to put it.
Yeah,
But really, that's what it is.
Is it what it is? Okay. Well, if they say so.
Very simplistic, but come on.
Well, they can always ask a lot of questions because, seeing things turn out the way they are, and they just wonder, how come we've not been able to, put a lid on some of these things? How many years or decades down the line? So, there you go. All right. So, we'll go ahead and take a look at some of the dailies here today, and we're going to start with Nigerian Tribune. Well, they've got, look at this. After military reclaims Marte, bomb blasts rock Maiduguri, many fear dead. We're ready to counter insurgency, banditry, service chiefs at confirmation hearing. So, that did go on yesterday. And so, lots of questions about how that is also playing itself out. Then you get to see Buhari unveils Nigeria's national cybersecurity policy and strategy, says cyber criminals' threat in Nigeria increasing. So, That we'll get to see, hopefully, as we also progress. Senate to probe multi-million-dollar Safe School Initiative scheme. Remember, that was raised, which there are questions concerning the funds that were allocated for that purpose. And some of the schools you see students being kidnapped from were said to be designated or listed as beneficiaries of that Safe School Initiative, and they still look that bad. So, of course, natural question is, what then happens to all that amount of money?
All kinds of, what do we call it, conspiracy theories here and there. But do we really even need an international institution to tell us that our schools are not safe? Is it necessary for us to look at?
Well, if it's collaboration, I mean, everybody would always...
No, I don't have a problem with that, but should it be an initiative from outside the country when we know how bad? If we really take seriously the plight of our children, Chamberlain.
Well, we've got UBEC, SUBEB, and many of those programs, they're supposed to be for this purpose.
Exactly.
So not that we necessarily need them to come in and tell us that.
Absolutely.
So that already exists. So perhaps this is in addition to several things. And if people offer to collaborate with you, I mean, collaboration is always welcome.
If people offer to collaborate with us, that's just fine. And then add to that, maybe by way of a diversion of sorts, add to that the education policies that have evolved over the years. We seem to be focusing more on the written text as opposed to the infrastructure that is going to be running the policies. I mean, some will remember that there was 6523 actually back in time. Yeah, I mean, primary school 6 years, secondary school 5 years, A levels 2 years.
And then it changed.
And then it changed to 6334, and then it was January to December. Now it's September to June or July, and it's all just such a lot of work. We need to just focus, for God's sake.
Yeah, it was almost sounding like a football formation there. 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, all of those. But yeah, we need to do much more. And then, some people had written in about, and we had talked about the livestock plan as well. Yeah. Look at this. FG begins implementation of €400,000 national livestock transformation plan in 4 states. Yeah, so that's all that talk. You might as well just go ahead and see this one. So remember, there had been questions about how is it going to be implemented, has it been suspended, and things like that. So
perhaps it's a good place to reference the suggestion of the president of the AFDB.
Yeah, the governor spoke about this anyway yesterday on the program as well. So perhaps predicated on this, you might just check that out. That is Nigerian Tribune this morning.
The Vanguard newspaper looks at it differently. Well, maybe similar, actually. Banditry designed to destroy Nigeria. That's how the Vanguard coins what the governors have said. It's the story is on page 9. Southwest governors vow to fight criminality with every legal means. That one is on page 10. As a number of riders, herdsmen, farmers now carry AK-47. Northern governors lament, say farmers' herder crisis would have been averted if livestock plan was implemented. PDP intervenes in Autumn Mohammed's rift over herdsmen bearing AK-47 rifles. All of that you'll find on the inside pages. Again, I think like some of the comments that we read earlier said, you just need to watch, how this all plays out. That picture you see there is of the governor of Oyo State having met Yoruba and Hausa Shasha market leaders. And Akpakpa gridlock, NPA Lagos to impound trucks without cool-up slips. Let's see how that will be implemented. That's on page 11. Cryptocurrency is still in the news. We acted in best interest of Nigerians, ascribed to the CBN governor. That story you'll find on page 19 this morning. FG concessions 12 highways to investors. Stories on page 5. Question is, how's that going to operate? It's on the inside pages. Vanguard Sports is on the back page. AFCON qualifiers, Raw hopes Osimhen will be fit for Eagles. among several others you'll find interesting this morning in the Guardian newspaper.
Guardian? Oh, okay.
Beg your pardon, Vanguard newspaper.
Oh, I was almost going to drop this. I thought, wait a minute, what is going on? Well, yes, the Guardian is the next one, actually. Maybe that was why. But look at how they lead today. FG passes new 10 trillion naira debt to unborn Nigerians. So if you don't read it properly, you think this is a new policy. No, it's, you remember the debt profile? Now you see this one. And then the first of the riders reads, undermines CBN Act, seeks to restructure overdrafts. Whoa. Public debt stock to surpass 42 trillion naira. Posterity ill prepared for mounting liabilities, says Echo. So we've got, this is, wow, new 10 trillion naira debt to unborn Nigerians. It means that there's a lot of work to be done as a result of what we see currently. And then the several references to CBN Act of 2007, which are supposed to talk about how, I think they say advances extended to government should be treated as well as repayment processes. But now, with this one, you just might see some new clauses coming in, if this, as report states here. And then you also find Senate defies protest, confirms ex-service chiefs as envoys. Lawan rejects petition against nominees. Ex-envoy Keshi says non-career envoys weakening diplomatic mission. Prof's fault action. Appointment can't stop ICC probe, says PDP. So they had to just dangle or bring that one in. And so, yeah, should get to see that. So, but, you know, if you listen to the debate on the Senate, the floor yesterday as well, it's quite interesting. But there you go. That confirmation is done and dusted now, they might not speak it. And that will be the Guardian today.
Daily Trust newspaper is talking about security or a lack of it. Boko Haram, many killed, dozens injured as explosions rock Maiduguri. This has pretty much rocked the media over the past few hours. 9 boys playing football among the dead. Oh dear. Kalere, Gwange, Adam Kolo areas affected. Zulum visits hospitals as doctors battle to save victims. Its first major attack on capital in years. You may want to find out who said that one on page 5 of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. And of course, that picture was taken from Maiduguri yesterday in the thick of it. Banditry, what we're witnessing is terrorism. As ascribed to governors, just find the story on page 6 of the paper this morning. And we have this one on page 6. MacBan moves to stop cattle sales to South, threatens to sue Autumn. You'll find that story on page 6 of the paper this morning. On page 4, right under the nameplate, FG targets 1 million jobs from digital switchover. The story is on page 4. The question is when. The details are on the inside pages. The Daily Trust this morning.
Oh, interesting stories on the back with your Vanguard, but they're out. Wow. Okay, look at Blueprint next today. After 3-year lull on digital switchover, FG OK's 9.4 billion naira for project execution. Targets 1 million jobs, inaugurates 13-man team for 31 states, says no more subsidy but private sector driven DSO, no court injunction stopping projects, ascribed to the Minister of Information there. So something you should just go follow up and see, get some details on that one. Insecurity, dialogue, not best option, but a necessity. Abdul Salami. We're ready with conditions. Governors, we're all victims. Fire me. Bandits fighting for ethnic survival. Gumi. So, different perspectives on what is going on, and of course, different perspectives as to what is being done, how do we sort all of these things out, and which is a conversation that will keep going on. But look, if we don't handle this properly, you may see this being almost a regular conversation for months to
Absolutely.
come. So it is that serious. Well, there you go. That is Blueprint this morning.
Take a look at what you have on the front page of the Leadership newspaper this morning. It's like the governors are backtracking on something they had said earlier, right there on the front page of the Leadership newspaper today. Talking to bandits, not a bad idea. That's it. The story is on page 4. Farmers also carry AK-47, not only herdsmen. That's according to Lalong. Nothing can be farther from the truth. Farmers hit back at Plateau governor. We're determined to end insecurity. Service chiefs assure Senate. That's what you have right there on the front page of the Leadership newspaper. Right beside that picture, stakeholders pick holes in management of Safe School initiative as Senate begins probe of utilization of $20 million donation. Isn't it about time? You mentioned this earlier. And then right under the nameplate, cryptocurrency used to finance terrorism. CBN, NFIU, ICPC, TEL, National Assembly, and PNB orders overhaul of national strategy on cybersecurity. That's what you have right there on the front page of the Leadership newspaper this morning. Markway, good morning. You have some papers?
Indeed. Well, just one. You see right there, the Daily Times has this one. PDP kicks as Senate confirms ex-service chiefs, others as ambassadors designate. That's on the front page of the Daily Times for you. And you see also explosion, anxiety at Maiduguri Varsity, others as explosions, gunshots, Rock City. You also see there insecurity, deploy armed security men to schools. Senate urges federal government. Do we have enough armed men to go around? You might want to ask. Traffic snarl, Lagos to impound trucks, parking on highways over Apapa gridlock. YCBN discourages dealings in cryptocurrency. Nigeria also features on the front page of the Daily Times. And you see that picture there, a widow's grief when we heard that servicemen lost their lives in the plane crash that happened on Sunday. They are real human beings with relatives, and you see one of them there, the widow, being comforted by the governor of Ekiti State. A very painful sight indeed. Grief is real, when we continue to hear of loss of lives. It is families that are being affected, others who have to live it. For the Daily Times.
Okay, there you go. That is a look at some of the dailies here today. We will be back in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, yes, indeed, joining us this morning to weigh in on this ongoing security or insecurity challenges we've got in different parts of the country, as you've seen there. John Cardinal Onayekon, who is the Archbishop Emeritus of Abuja Archdiocese. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us today on the program. Well, there's been several interpretations of what is going on, how we're approaching it, what we should be doing, where we may be missing it. But let's get your view first in terms of your impression of what really is going on about the insecurity we have at the moment.
Good morning, my friend and brother. Good morning, viewers too. My impression will be probably what most Nigerians have. is impression in terms of being surprised, taken aback, that we don't understand what is happening. We don't understand why these things should be going on. We don't understand that bandits and the robbers and the terrorists, whatever name you call them, can be roaming around freely and escalating by the week, by the day. And it's as if the state has completely surrendered. I'm glad that there is a lot of movement now, and we are even hearing some right kind of things being said, and there is a sense of commitment, especially from the governors and so on, that this should stop. I don't believe that it is beyond the Nigerian state to deal with. This is our country, and if all of us are together, I'm sure things will move faster. So my major concern is that, are we on the same page? Are there people with any hidden agenda? What kind is the government itself cohesive and united? And when I say government, I don't mean only federal government, but also state governments and local governments. And the rest of us who are citizens, we want to know what is happening so that there be no room for all kinds of conspiracy theories which confuse issues and make it possible to think together and act together. And so we are really, really confused and worried. My only hope, the only silver lining I'm seeing, is that there is a general agreement that we should not be where we are. Therefore, something needs to be done differently from what we have been doing before.
But in terms of having a proper analysis of what the situation really is, do we all have to be on the same page for the right actions to be taken? Because if the federal government decides, look, this is how we want to approach some of these things, and they take the leading step, we can get some major results there, can't we?
No, I'm talking, when I say common page, I mean common page as regards what we want to achieve. Common page as regards the assessment of what is happening to us. When it comes to what strategies to apply in order to achieve this common objective, there's obviously room for differences of opinions and even differences of tasks. We don't all have the same measure of responsibility or ability to deal with bandits and terrorists. But when it comes to admitting that we have terrorists in our midst, and let us be united in that, it doesn't help when we are hearing some places, some voices, as it were, seeming to be condoning and supporting what is happening, whether on religious or on ethnic basis. A criminal is a criminal, even if he's a Catholic. He will be a criminal, and I will denounce him as such. If we can have a common mind on what we want, that we want a nation united under God, where men and women and children can go about their business and live their lives in freedom and in security, then we agree on identifying those who are disturbing our nation. Then we will be able to put our minds together and our resources together to tackle it. I'm not the only one who is complaining that there are discordant notes. It is not good news when governor says one thing and another one counteracts it, or when a governor says something and the federal government counteracts it, and when state government puts on security measures and the Nigerian police does not key into the system, indeed refuse to get the project going. This is what we see from around, and it should not be happening in a nation that is supposed to be well organized and well governed.
Well, you have just right there from the comments you just made now about these discordant notes pointed to a major issue, which is we don't seem to have an agreement on something. Discordant notes among governors of the same region and of different regions, discordant notes between federal and state governments and even agencies and all of that. It points to something, but perhaps the challenge here, the real crux of the issue is we have not been able to pin down the real cause of all of these insecurity challenges that we've been having. What, in your estimation, would you say is the reason why we are having these security challenges that had spilled over years?
I don't know if there is any nation where there is no crime. Every nation has its own fair share of criminals, of bandits. It's only a matter of how many, how powerful, how strong. Our situation has become critical because it has gone beyond a situation of the normal kind of criminals elements that we have in this.
Well, certainly we'll have that technology fixed and have His Eminence back in this conversation that we are having, because, I mean, when we begin to have discordant tunes among, or discordant notes, as he calls them, among the governing class, I'm torn between using the word ruling and governing. You know, ruling sometimes suggests.
Well, the elected officials in this case. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on how you want to use it, now a verb or what. But, you know, part of what he's saying is that all of those discordant tunes, you know, what we may also seek to find out from him is, look, is this a facade, really? Because many sit back and if you look at the trajectory, or there's an established pattern. First, you could see the pattern in the spate of kidnappings. I mean, you have our security people who will always tell us, look, humans are creatures of habit. These things are not that difficult to discern from what they have been doing, from the actions that we've seen. So do we all, or do they expect us all to believe that the authorities don't have at least a huge amount of information as to what is going on? If that is what people like us to believe, or the authorities like us to believe, then it raises a lot more questions as to the security architecture, which lots of people always like to refer to in terms of, okay, so what is going on here? But the comments from the chair of NGF, perhaps we'll like to take on His Eminence on that one as well. It puts so many things in perspective. You know, in terms of how some persons out there see certain things. And perhaps, maybe that should help us or refocus. Say, okay, wait a minute, if this is what... Look, they've got a lot of information.
Absolutely.
When they're up there.
I mean, he's been minister and he's now governor, so it's second time he is governor, so definitely he has access to some information. Yeah. And being chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, you know, first among his peers, 36 of them, most certainly is something that, you know, he...
Well, they all don't agree on so many things.
Well, yes, they don't agree, or they all don't always agree.
That's the nature of democracy. Ideas have got to contend.
Absolutely, they all don't always agree, but then, yes, he has this information, and for him to have said, you know, that these are symptoms or, you know, demonstrations or manifestations of terrorism definitely is something of concern. But it'll also be good to find out from His Eminence, you know, because at the end of the day, we talk a lot about what government has done, what government is doing, and what government will be doing or should be doing. It's, at the end of the day, it's about the people. It's the people that get killed. It's the people that are insecure. It's the people that are displaced from their homes.
Yeah.
It's the people that elected these people who are supposed to govern them and all of that. So what are these things? What is it that the people are supposed to do? He's an elder statesman. So,
yesterday when the Plateau State governor was talking about people shouldn't say government hasn't done anything or nothing is being done. Look, there's no government that comes in and doesn't do anything.
Absolutely.
They always do something. But that is not the issue. The thing is, the kind of results that people see
absolutely
speaks a great deal to whatever it is that they have done. And unfortunately, the way it is with security is that no matter how good you may have performed, say in 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, if there's one major blow or explosion and people die, there will be questions. Guys, it's like football. Pardon me to bring that.
You have come again.
No, it's like football, because if you've been winning laurels all the while, look at Real Madrid. You could win 3 successive Champions Leagues or Champions Leagues, but if you lose 10 successive matches, chances are that the coach will be gone. So these are principles, really, not that
Well, it's a good principle, but another thing that will be added to this is part of the people that are most vulnerable in all of these are women and children.
Yeah.
And that's, by the way, we have a woman among us. Markwe?
Well, it'll be interesting to hear his eminence perspective on whether or not he thinks that there is a place for clerics in all of this. We've been saying only recently, Sheikh Ahmed Gumi, going to the bushes to speak to the bandits. And in recent times, he's been asking for amnesty for them. I think in the interview he granted our colleague, Seun Kimbaloyi, he spoke on the reason, and I think that some of the papers have quoted extensively bits from that interview. So it'll be very interesting to know if His Eminence thinks that there is a place for clerics in the middle of all of this. But something that really stands out for me is leadership. So interestingly, increasingly, Nigerians are looking to the governors, especially the coalition of governors. If you're not looking to the Nigeria Governors Forum, you're looking at the Northern Governors Forum, looking to hear what they'll say as a bloc. And I think that speaks to the fact that they are not hearing from the main person that they need to hear from. Due respect to Garba Shehu and Mr. Femi Adesina, who are the president's spokesperson. But at this time, one of the things that the people really need to hear is from the leader whom they elected, to make sense, to really, put a finger on what is happening, to understand precisely what is going on and see if, what exactly the president is thinking in terms of whether amnesty is the way to go, negotiations are the way to go, or it's going to be a military solution. Because right now we have all manner of sides and all manner of advice based on the perspective of whoever is touching this big elephant of security that is now an elephant, and all of us seem to be blind touching different parts. But it'd be nice to know somebody who actually has all the eyes open and he has a bird's eye view of what is going on and, can set the people aright as to what he believes the solutions are. But in the meantime, I would like to know if His Eminence thinks that there is a place for clerics in all that is going on across the country. Gentlemen.
Well, I'm not sure if you heard what is the question, so perhaps you could just go ahead. Welcome back, Your Eminence. Did you get the question that Marco just raised?
Yeah, it was asking whether I believe there is room for clerics in this matter. By clerics, I imagine you mean religious leaders.
Yes.
As you know, one of our problems in Nigeria now is that there is a major confusion as regards who are religious leaders, what do they stand for. It's so bad that I can only talk for myself and maybe the church to which I belong. But that apart, surely there is a moral issue here. Whoever becomes a bandit arms himself and abducts innocent people on the road and put them through trauma, certainly there is something wrong with that kind of attitude and behavior. And so there is problem in the heart, a moral issue which has to be dealt with. This is where definitely religion ought to play a positive role. It is also possible that a criminal might be convinced to change his attitude when he is spoken to and when his heart is touched by the ministration of a genuine and respected religious leader. That is different from a religious leader becoming a channel for discussion with a criminal as if he actually has something to say. And I think in this we need to act together. There is a stage at which the religious leader can be very, very useful. I am not too familiar with our friend Sheikh Gumi. He obviously has a significant moral clout. If he's using it in a positive way to convert these criminals and make them stop what they are doing, then well and good, and we congratulate him and thank him for it. I don't have such a clout with those people. All I can do is make statements and perhaps talk to my own followers, those who listen to my preaching. And in these matters, we have to distinguish between what a religious leader does and what the government and law enforcement agents should do. The law enforcement should not be begging criminals, but the religious leader can beg criminals to please stop. I don't know whether what I'm saying is clear.
Indeed, it is clear what you're saying. However, do you see a role for intersection? Because at the end of the day, what we have seen is that the Sheikh has come out and he's saying, that there ought to be amnesty based on the perspective that he's gained speaking to these bandits. Do you think that it's a route that government needs to explore in that regard?
As we can see, there is a division of opinion over this suggestion of his. And I think that brings out the importance of transparency and common discussion on this matter. We all have to agree on what to do. And probably the Sheikh has taken a first step, but it should not be the end of it. Is the government really prepared to take seriously the spiritual resources of religious leaders? In that case, they should prepare a sort of structure for that to happen. As at now, even what the Sheikh did was practically all on his own. And more can be done in this regard. Lots of money is being spent in other areas. A little bit of that might be useful to bring together and create the forum. And here, interreligious approach is very useful, so that it will not appear as if this is a Muslim thing or this is a Christian thing, because the criminality itself is neither Christian nor Muslim, I hope.
But increasingly, some people will say that this is deepening distrust amongst the two major religions in the country. What's your take on that? And do you see a room for reconciliation and healing and consensus building around the issues of security?
Definitely, because security, good governance, good behavior, peace. These are all common grounds of all faiths, and especially the two major faiths in Nigeria. We are all agreed on that. This is all the more reason why we should work together. If action is taken or statements are made that tend to appear as if this is a Muslim thing versus others, then we may end up with the kind of scenario you are now describing, deepening of distrust. I would like to be able to meet, for example, the Sheikh Gumi and discuss with him so that he can explain a little bit more to us what is happening. What is exactly the line of action? Where do we all come into the picture? Because we are all affected when terrorists and mad bandits kidnap on the road. Sometimes they do ask whether you are a Christian or a Muslim, and probably they take action discriminately. But generally, they don't discriminate. So the matter concerns all of us. And in any case, we are all in this same country together, and we must join hands to rescue it. It all comes to how do we make sure that religion serves a positive role in the present mess in which we find ourselves.
Over the weekend, you were unsparing in your comments when you asked those in government to get out if they are not, if they have no clue on what to do to solve the security situation on the ground. Has your perspective changed, or are you willing to give a little more time in terms of what you expect, given what has happened from the weekend till now?
Thank you very much, Channels, for giving me an opportunity to clarify that press statement. You know very well how your journalists find a way of bringing a sharp headline to draw attention. I did not actually say that the government should quit, but I definitely said that first, it is a primary duty of government to secure citizens. And when a government reach a situation where it appears as if they can no longer carry out that role, then they must admit that they are unable to carry out their role. What I suggested was not that they should quit, but that they should open up the space, bring in other Nigerians, and that what we have here on our hands is no longer a case of APC or PDP. It's a question of the very survival of Nigeria. If I made any proposal at all, it is that we should open up the space of government. The government should not think that only they and their party members can handle this matter. They should open it up to the whole nation. There's no reason why everybody must be in the same political party. So that I would like almost use a question like a government of national unity, because we are in an emergency situation. How that will work out, that is the business of the politicians to work out. One thing is certainly sure, that we cannot continue the way we are going. You did mention that a few things are happening over the past week. I already said that those are good points, some good signs, and we hope it will even go better and more seriously. The issue of cohesion, even on the part of government, is very, very important. It was raised from what I saw briefly in the meeting of governors in Minna, that we want a situation where the whole country is united against these bandits.
We'll take a break here, Your Eminence. When we come back, we'll wrap up this discussion. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. Well, Your Eminence, in terms of this question of amnesty, how should we approach it? First, I mean, even listening to the recent comments from the chairman of Nigerian Governors Forum, where he says that these are terrorists. But we've equally seen some members of the army, the persons in the Northeast who they say have repented, then they are rehabilitated back into the society. And then we've seen certain governors who are also given their perspective on how or who they think these people are. So should we be talking about granting them amnesty or proscription of terrorist groups? How should we approach it?
From point of view of my own background, training, and spiritual formation, I believe firmly in what our scripture says, that it is not the will of God that the sinner should die, but that he should repent and live. So obviously, if a criminal repents and sincerely repents, he should be forgiven. He should be forgiven. But the question is that when it comes to the real facts of has he repented or has he not repented, the state must have a way of making sure that this is not just a joke. The whole idea of call it amnesty is not only to be applied to armed bandits. In that case, it is true for everybody who is presently in jail in Nigeria. Anybody who is serving term in, we now call it correctional homes, no longer prisons, but it's still the same thing. So if the world were wonderful and beautiful, nobody should actually be put in detention. Everybody should be able to go freely. But for the sake of law and order, to protect the rest of us, the few who are making life difficult have to be restrained. The mad dogs should be tied down. The armed bandits should be disarmed. So before we talk of amnesty or any of that, there should be clear evidence that there is a sincere repentance, that the people concerned have decided not to pick up arms anymore, that they are ready to go back to their normal way of life. And if they are foreigners, they are ready to go back home to wherever they came from. All this must be part and parcel of the process of amnesty. There is also a difference between amnesty granted when it's a question of differences of opinion, political differences, when somebody has been put in jail for political difference, and then you give pardon. That one is easy enough. It means reconciliation. The bandit must be reconciled with society. They must change. They must decide to be really repentant and show it clearly, and not go brag, not be put in a position to brag around as if to appear that they have actually won, they have defeated the nation and the state. This whole issue of dialogue with them. I'll give the example. An armed robber enters my house and is carrying a gun. I have to dialogue with him to beg him not to kill me and allow him to take whatever he likes. Is that dialogue? Of course, we may call it dialogue. Now we need to do that so as to save my life. But the nation should not reach that stage. I don't think we should reach a stage where the nation simply says we are unable to deal with the situation. We should be able to deal with it. And on the one hand, we should be open to amnesty, to forgiveness. On the other hand, we need to keep law and order and not make it an incentive for others to pick up arms and wait for amnesty and rehabilitation. This is what we have seen. We don't have the full details of what happened in the amnesty program with Boko Haram. We don't have the full story. It seems to be crowded in security discussions. But what we are hearing is that many of the so-called repented terrorists either went back to where they were before, or are staying with us and supplying information to those in the bush. That means they said they have repented, but they have not really repented. Is there a way of following up and make sure how repentant they are? So these are issues that unfortunately, it's not so easy to deal with. But in principle, the Christian religion is for forgiveness of the repentant sinner. And we are all sinners. We are all actually asking God to forgive us. And we even say, God, forgive us as we forgive those who sin against us. That the principle is clear enough. The issue comes when we have to face things in the reality on the ground.
I do remember the former Minister of State for Agric, while he was in the National Assembly at some point, there were questions concerning who are these people carrying out all these attacks against farmers and the killings going on. And he said they were foreigners. But today we've heard Ekiti State Governor in that meeting in Niger State saying, look, kidnappers, these bandits, whatever you call them, these are terrorists, remnants of ISWAP who have spilled into different parts of the country. And that then takes us to this point of negotiation, either with kidnappers or whoever they are. How should we approach that part? Because how then do we, distinguish between who are the foreigners? Is it the foreigners amongst them who are holstering the AK-47, carrying out this kidnapping? Should we be negotiating with them? What do you think we should be doing? How should we approach it?
I think there is no contradiction between what the former Minister of Agriculture of State said and what Governor Fayemi has said, because we have been told, I say we have been told because I have no first-hand information, we have been told that the people in the Boko Haram terrorist groups come from different countries, and especially different parts of West Africa. We even hear that there are some white people, meaning maybe Arabs or Europeans among them. So it is not surprising if indeed it is a Boko Haram element that have spilled over into the country. They will also have spilled over with foreign elements. But what we are also hearing is that there is more than that there are indeed, and this is serious, that there is indeed an inflow of bandits and lawless people from our neighboring countries who are walking into our nation freely and carrying their arms without any restraint, and are setting up camps in our forests, and it is from there they are harassing the rest of us. So the matter is even different from what we are having with Boko Haram. Therefore, if you are talking of negotiation, with whom are you talking? I have always asked myself, have we ever really spoken with Boko Haram leadership? Again, I'm not in a position to know what is happening, since if anything ever happened at all, it has never been publicly announced to all of us. But generally, like we say, every war eventually ends up on the negotiating table. Yes, but before then, you must identify with whom are you negotiating, who are the leaders, who are those whom, after you have agreed with them, you can be sure that there will be everybody will fall in line. If we reach that stage where we can meet, even outside Nigeria, like often happens, outside Nigeria with those who are the real leaders of these groups, then we can negotiate. But if you are talking of bands of bandits who just organize themselves in small groups, 10, 12, and with very well armed, who just come in, commit criminal activities and go out, you can negotiate with that little group. What about the rest? And after you finish with them, what stops them from moving to another place and go around, start all over again? So I think in the area of negotiation, we must distinguish between when you are dealing with an organized group, like it seems Boko Haram is organized, and bandits that are just coming from different places. Apparently, Nigeria has become known to be a place where you can just go and steal and get away with it. So maybe that is attracting more and more people from other parts of our sub-region, which is a pity. We welcome foreigners, but and we have always welcomed them. It's only when they begin to be a danger to our own survival that we need to shout in self-defense.
Well, perhaps that also underscores what the federal government is considering now about the Ecowas Protocol, to review some of it so that people don't just saunter in and out of Nigeria willy-nilly without, doing the proper things. But then when you talk about and reference...
I am surprised. Sorry, permit me to bump in here.
Okay.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised to hear that because I've tried to travel across West Africa several times, taking my car or in the bus. We're traveling from Lagos to Semeboda. Before we get to meeting in Ghana, the amount of check we get on the way is so much that I don't understand why it is not the same thing all across our borders. So it is not even. It seems that even what we are complaining is that the Ecowas Protocol, which talks about free movement of people and goods, when it comes to the reality on the borders, we see something else. So there must be the fact that some people are not doing their job, or shall we say, the borders in the north are not along the roads where the immigration officers are, and therefore it becomes practically and physically impossible to guard our borders. That is a serious matter. But we are not the only ones who have large borders to guard. We should know what to do to prepare that. There's a whole question too of identity. There are countries in this world, even in West Africa here, where people are supposed to go around with their identity card to be sure you are who you say you are. We have not had that kind of habit here in Nigeria, but I'm glad that we are working in the direction of national identity cards so that you know who you are. If I arrive in Ghana tomorrow, I cannot pretend that I'm a Ghanaian. Unless still, if I go to Italy, where my black color already tells them that I am not an Italian. But if I get to Italy and I show my Vatican passport, they will know that I have a right to be around here. So these are issues which I think is not rock science. If we are negligent in keeping our borders safe, we should simply admit it and take steps to rectify the situation.
The borders that you talk about is actually something of concern to a very, very good number of people. And perhaps, of course, from what you have also said, you are as concerned. But the question that I was going to ask you is along the line of how we involve the people in the exercise. You have talked about the official borders, the ones that are guarded by the NCS, the immigration, and the rest of them. But there are several thousands of borders with thousands of communities all across the nation, all across Nigeria. And I'm just wondering, what kind of conversation should we be having with these communities and their leaders? Because there have been times when a good number of people have also said that some of the infiltrations we're having is because, some Nigerians are colluding with, some of these elements who come into the country. So it begs the question of how we involve Nigerians in these border communities, in the local communities, in fighting for and defending the integrity of the nation. Because, as you know, and as has been said by the former head of state, the military apparatus are overstretched. So what kind of conversation should we be having with these locals so that they can also join in protecting Nigeria from these infiltrations?
We talk as if we have never lived in a nation where the borders are relatively well protected. We still remember now, not too long ago, the borders were well protected. Why are we angry? Why are we worried and disturbed today? Because the movement of people, and especially the movement of criminals, have taken a new dimension. We have to distinguish movement of people and movement of criminals. armed criminals. We hear once in a while when the border communities raise alarm that there are some individuals in our forest who are armed and are harassing people. They don't get much attention paid to them. And very often those border communities are even the first victims of these invading marauders. I think this is where the issue that has been raised over and over again, that the security should be not only from Abuja, but also to the states, and then right down to the local government, becomes very important. If every local government has its own security apparatus, it can be the first line of response to this kind of thing. And then these communities along the borders should be given special attention and special resources to be able to join the uniformed immigration officers in protecting our borders from bad people who are coming into our country. We have enough of our own robbers and bad people. But to have a situation where they are coming in large numbers, like they are now coming, is not acceptable at all. As you probably know, part of the conspiracy theories going around is that this movement of armed people into Nigeria is not by chance, and that they are being sponsored, being imported, being helped, and even protected. Now, this kind of theories is making the rounds. It is dangerous. And if anybody is in a position to stop it, the sooner, the better. Because what is happening is not sustainable. So it is not only a matter of movement across the borders. Nigerians also move across the borders. And we have never complained too much about that. But when you have organized gangs, armed, moving across the borders, we should be able to deal with that.
Well, that also raises the question of community policing and state police. That has been an issue that in the news for quite a while. Well, some people believe that, the federal government is coming up with the idea of community policing, hoping that that would help to stem the tide of insecurity at the lower levels. But then they are still being centrally controlled from the federal capital. But while at the same time, governors have joined their voices, among several others, to ask that we tinker with our laws so that we can permit the governors of the states to control their own police apparatus so that we can be able to stem the tide at the local levels that you talked about. What's your take on that?
My take on it is that we need more than tinkering with our laws. We need to overhaul our laws, not just tinkering with it. This is one area where the contradictions of our present constitution is very obvious. The constitution says that the governors are the chief security officers of their states. But de facto, what happens? When their state is in trouble, they don't have the wherewithal to carry out that role of chief security officers of their states. And even if there are security structures within their states, like the police, which is a federal police, or army, which is in their state, they have no direct control over those apparatus, which means the law itself doesn't make sense. If the governor is to be the chief security officer of his state, he should be able to have men and equipment at his disposal that he can use when there's need. And I'm saying that we should go beyond that. Local government should be organized now better in such a way that the local government should also have apparatus and personnel to be able to deal with some measure of security within the area, because they know one another very well. So I agree with you. And it's not only now we are saying it, it has been said over and over again. I don't know who doesn't want this constitution to be improved, because too much of it just doesn't work. There is need to change it, and we definitely need. We may not need the state army, but we certainly need state police.
Is that part of does that suggest you're supporting the call for restructuring the country?
Call it whatever you like, whatever you like. When people who are talking of restructuring, it means that the structure on ground is not sustainable. Is not working for us. It has to be, and it takes various forms. Some people talk of restructuring in terms of making the states more autonomous in respect of the center, and autonomy includes also financial autonomy. This is obviously the direction to go. How that goes is still being worked out. There is a fear that the issue of constitutional review is bedeviled with all kinds of problems. There are those who are even suggesting that the constitution itself has made its review very difficult, almost impossible, when it puts the onus of reviewing the constitution on the members of the National Assembly. What happens when you have a National Assembly that no longer enjoys the confidence of the people, and it is still the same assembly that is expected to review the constitution for the people? So there are a lot of issues. It is a sad fact that very often the way the National Assembly moves doesn't seem to go in tandem with the way most of us around are feeling. And you can say we have an opportunity at the elections to change them, but we know that is very often not even the case, considering the quality of elections we have been having so far in our country. We do hope that those who are in the assembly will realize that they represent us, find out what we want, and make sure that they do represent us well there. May God bless those of them who are doing well in this regard, but too many seems to be there playing political games, and their anxiety being how to return in the next election. And so the situation in the country is beyond that now, because if they don't work hard, there will be no National Assembly to talk about when chaos descends, which God forbid.
All right, then, Your Eminence John Cardinal Onayekon, Archbishop Emeritus of Abuja Diocese, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.
Thank you very much for giving me opportunity to air my views. May God bless our country, Nigeria. We are a great nation, and I believe God loves us. God bless you.
Amen. Well, back in a moment. Join us again. Yes, we're talking cybersecurity, and we've got Mrs. Favor Femi Oyewole, who is a member of the Cybersecurity Review Committee. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Morning.
So it was this committee that essentially reviewed that 2014 policy before it came up with this particular one. We heard the NSA, they talk about the gaps that existed. They wanted a proper solution. So what was the gaps about?
Actually, the maiden edition of 2014, you know, the cyber threat, it keeps evolving. Threat landscape keeps evolving, and it's supposed to be a living document. All the threats or all the things that were envisaged at the 2014 first edition, definitely many of them either were not carried out or because the threat landscape have changed. So there was actually a need. It was supposed to be a 5 years life cycle. And at that time, by the time of 2019, we was already due for extensive and overhauling review, which was why the committee was formed again. And I represent the private multi-stakeholder committee. And so we're part of the people that review this particular edition right now.
So what did you say was not carried out? Any example of some of the policies?
There are some, from the policy and the strategic document, there are some key initiatives that are expected to drive the policy and the strategy for cybersecurity for the country. And one of them is the establishing of the National Cybersecurity Coordination Center. That was supposed to be the umbrella upon which every other pillars and every initiatives and strategic action item were supposed to be carried out. These were yet to be done. I guess this is one of the key things that is going to be taking effect after this launch again.
One of the questions that will come to mind naturally would be, since we are talking about security, well, of course there are several issues to it, but since we are talking about security, it's suspected that it's supposed to be more preventive than fighting, an incursion. What's the plan in that regard?
For cybersecurity, the era of just planning is not just, yes, to plan, but you have to build resilience. Now, the country has to get to the point whereby, because the next warfare, really the next war is cyber warfare, and which means that as a nation, we also have to get to that level of cyber maturity, whereby, which cutting across all the various multi-stakeholder, the various partners collaborating within the private, the public sector, and also the governmental entities and all that. So these will also enable us to gain that maturity to the level in which we can be able to foster energy, and everyone has a role to play with this.
Is there my apologies. Is there a plan to shut down some social media sites? I ask that because, if it is about cybersecurity, there might have been a consideration or contemplation that because certain galvanizing was done through the social media space, and since government is already talking about, regulating the social media, this might find a way into this document that you're talking about. Is there a plan to initiate that action of government through this policy?
In actual fact, it's one of the pillars for this new edition is governance. A lot of things is going to be done with governance around it, and this is really going to, be able. It's applicable in a way, but there are other bigger issues for us as a country where it comes to living the cybersecurity and enhancing the maturity level of cybersecurity for the nation, which is which are the things that are going to be focusing. They are under the 8 pillars of this particular edition that we're speaking to now.
What do you say is applicable in a way?
As in applicable in the sense that every country has the right to put some level of governance around their cybersecurity, the way it is used. I know that there's the weapon of using the social media and all that, but then people really need to understand these things. It's not just enforcing them not to use. You can't stop anybody from using social media, but there is a way that people will understand that the level of education, the level of awareness, to know that if they think they're actually hurting somebody, indirectly they're hurting themselves, because everyone has digital presence and everybody is responsible for security. In fact, security is everyone's responsibility.
When the committee was doing this review, did it ever come up that this is a policy? Is it a law? What's the position of the law on this kind of things? Because, first of all, did it ever come up? Or what was the kind of...
There's actually a law that is an act that is backing up the...
this policy? Yeah,
this backing up the Nigerian cyber security policy and strategy, and that is the Cybercrime Act Prevention and Prohibition.
Why did the committee or the policy deem it necessary to include social media or fake news? Because, several lawyers have said time and again that the laws of sedition, the laws of libel cover a lot of grounds in this regard. So why were they specific? Why was this policy specific on those two issues?
Specifically, they have to mention it, because when you're coming up with policy, you still have to mention some, element of things that you will address, but not necessarily that is the reason why that policy is formulated in the first instance. And we know that social media is really what is going to drive a lot of things for either individual, organization, or even for a nation. So it's also expedient that people know the right ways of using some of these things, and it comes out from education. And what NCPS is going to really do in this light is to, first start to do more of awareness, education. People will know. The more people understand what is expected of them, as they carry themselves, as they browse the internet, as they tweet and do whatever it is. It's more of understanding. Many people do many things because they don't really understand. So driving that awareness on a national level, education at the national level, it will actually bring a lot of sanity in some things, and to drive down culture as well.
So what do people really need to understand? There is a way people are used to doing things. And you've talked about certain 8 pillars. I don't know if that's where it will be relevant here, but what is it that people need to understand when they get online? Because that's about the only way people have to express themselves.
For instance, they say there's a freedom of speech and what have you, but then there is a limit to whatever you have to say that's going to hurt the other person, if it's not based on fact. I know that many of the things that people speculate at times perhaps are not based on fact. That is not to say there are no element of truth in what people are saying, but then just being to know where is the boundary. To what extent do you say this when you don't have it based on fact? But talking about the entire the cybersecurity policy and the strategic document for 2021. The 8 pillars that we are referring to is also going to foster, bringing and enhancing opportunities in the usage of internet.
What are these 8 pillars?
The 8 pillars, we have one as in strengthening cybersecurity governance and coordination, and also we have the protecting the critical national infrastructure, which is a CNI, which is, for instance, like I was saying, that the cyber warfare is going to be. The next one is cyber warfare. For instance, a cyber attack can grind or just completely shut down a national grid. It can shut down the electricity. It can shut down, your airport or everything. It's just a matter of somebody having a foothold, and taking the key things, maybe taking out the server that is in charge of that particular thing. So there are other bigger things that cybersecurity, that as a nation, should really pay attention, which is a critical infrastructure. We need to identify this infrastructure. We also need to plan in protecting them. Then also the issue of online protection abuse is also there, which is, I think, is one of the things we're talking about. Then even the children, is also catered for in this policy and strategy, so that there is a law that guide and protect children online, and so that most of the news and some of the things we have, working and collaborating with several organizations and bodies within the country, and also international partners. Then one of the pillars also talks about international collaboration, because the issue of we're talking about a borderless thing. For cybersecurity, you cannot handle it alone, because there are things that you need to, collaborate with other countries. You need to harness strength. You need to, work on each other. You need to team up to achieve some various things. So the part of the pillar also highlights that particular fact too.
I know that there's been several attempts back and forth on the part of the National Assembly and the government to regulate social media, and the people in turn have made their voices heard in terms of how they feel of all of government's plan to do that. So is this, because bringing that into this policy, of course you have people who would think this is government trying through the back channel to clamp down on social media?
I mean, that would be absolutely wrong for anyone to think about that, because of all the things that the nation is faced with cybersecurity crisis and threats and things, attacks here and there. I think social media is just, maybe a drop out of it, because there are so many other things that collectively working together as partners, as team players, we have to address as a nation, and this is just a drop out of it. Let me just say,
so
put it down.
Give us an example. If one tweets or retweets, what kind of thing can one do that will make one liable according to this cybersecurity policy now?
There is no way, especially that was stated that you say something is because you have said something and it's counted as a fake news, you are going to be sentenced. It's not stated in any way in the policy. Now, it's just harnessing the good use of, of information, just people being guided. It's just like the basic common etiquettes or good use of the computing of information in the cyberspace. Now, another thing from the pillar, which is also one of the pillar, is harnessing and promoting regulatory, framework, law enforcement agency, because you also need, if you're talking about cybersecurity, it's as far as you know. What you don't really know, you can't really even correct, or you can't even bring into that kind of perspective. So there's going to be a lot of education, awareness, harnessing, the law enforcement agency, working together with various partners just to ensure that the Nigeria economic is safe for you and I to do our business. Because everybody business, either individual, either organization, you all have a presence on the internet, and we will be able to do it in a way that it is safe for you, it is also safe for me as a person.
Since we're talking about security, is it part of the plan, whether in the near or far future, because when it comes to security, you need to barricade certain areas, physical security, that you need to barricade certain areas so that people don't get access to it to destroy one infrastructure or another. Is it anywhere a plan in the near or far future to restrict certain websites from getting into the country, or to restrict people from accessing certain websites in the country as a measure of security?
Well, I guess we will get to that point.
Will we ever get to that point?
Yes, we will get to it, because I know
point of security.
I know some country, they can actually shut down some particular website, and I think that it's just this direction, this roadmap we're currently embarking on now, will actually help us to achieve that. It will not really cost any country to say, I don't want this particular traffic. That means from every perimeter, all the ISP, it just drop as a traffic. That traffic will drop. That even if you try to do it, for instance, I know of maybe in Dubai or something, as WhatsApp, you cannot do WhatsApp voice. You can chat, but you cannot do voice.
Are they planning to copy it here?
I'm not saying that.
Oh.
But I'm just telling you, to the extent that a country can exert, authority based on what their risk appetite, what they understand, how they want to curtail things, they want things to be done in the environment.
So this is in a way saying that eventually we may get to the point where certain social media sites are shut down from coming to Nigeria.
I don't think the purpose of this document is aimed to shut down anything. I guess Nigeria as a country is a bit liberal, and it gives people the opportunity to express themselves. There are so many other good things we can do together to make this country greater than what it is now. And that is what, working together with various stakeholders, we're going to achieve.
Okay.
To get to do.
Yeah, part of the NSA's remarks on that launch yesterday, part of it was saying it was going to safeguard our critical national infrastructure and ensure the protection of our cyberspace from cyber attacks, online fraud, and other related illicit activities, including fake news and hate speech. How did they determine what is hate speech?
That one in particular, I could see that the discussion is really centering around this hate speech, fake news, all that.
People, like to talk about the intendment of the law. They like to understand what is the thinking behind some of these things and find out if existing laws don't already provide for it, so everyone can be on the same page, so that people don't have private interpretation of the law. That's just it.
In actual fact, for the protection of our cyberspace, there are so many things this new edition 2021 of NCPA SP is going to achieve for us, and that is protection of our cyberspace. And in protecting our cyberspace, and it is anything that will promote economic growth for the country is actually what is going to fly. And at the same time, centering on hate speech, fake news. Yes, in the context of, there's some times that people use, and let me just put it like that. People use it And within the confinement of law or of interpretation, you might not be able to exactly say that, okay, this is how it is going to be measured out, or how it's going to be, implemented. And, there are some words that, it's becoming common, but honestly, is not the reason why this particular policy is drafted.
Okay, since you talk about economic development, and we know that in Nigeria, the most populous catchment of people are young people. And the people that you are likely to find more in the cyberspace are also young people. What's the plan to engage them? Because if let me use the word, unleash security agencies on them, we'll probably be going back to where we were, in terms of insecurity along that day. So what's the plan to bring the young people under the fold to ensure that, they also have a buy-in on this? So we're all on the same page.
There's a lot of things that is going to start coming to limelight with regards to that. Just as you have said, the youth they had a future of the country, and whatever any government is doing that is not considering that is not going to get us to where we desire to be. Now, for cybersecurity to really strive in the country, there's a lot of things that are going to come up with capacity building. I know there are hubs already that relate to cybersecurity. We also want to be able to, bring on board to localize some of these skill sets. By the time we pay attention, to our youth, and we're able to harness the energy, allow the giants in them to emanate, is also going to be to the good of the country. So a lot of capacity building things is going to
Just give us a minute. We need to go to break, but we'll come back and let you complete your thoughts in a moment. Just stay with us. And welcome back. Could you conclude your thoughts on the economy, boosting the economy for young people?
That is coming up with various programs that is going to enhance capacity building. And you can see that globally speaking, cybersecurity risk is even very scarce. Almost everybody is having a pinch of it. But for us as a country, just like some other country that believe so much in cybersecurity have done, the strategy that has been put in place is to ensure that the entrenched cybersecurity mindset skills into the use as they're coming up, and they create the platforms for them to be able to grow and to enhance that skill.
How do they plan to do that?
Either from building it into their curriculum, working with the various education sector to ensure that cybersecurity is entrenched, and the skill set is also, it becomes, if they're used to it, and they also give the platform for them to learn.
Okay, so what plan is there to improve the internet penetration in the country and ensure that the telecommunication companies don't squeeze the people or throttle the broadband provision for the people?
Yeah, something was recently approved, which is going to help with that, and with deepening the internet penetration, make it cheaper for everyone to avoid, thereby also driving the economic growth for the nation, and also driving inclusion so that people can participate, people can learn, because there's really so many things that you can derive, gaining access to the internet these days, especially if you know how to explore the benefits that's embedded inside it.
So what part of this policy holds government accountable or says government, these are your limits, these are things you cannot encroach upon the people, because government has capacity to either hack into individuals' private, tap your lines or phones or something? Are there any laws restricting government from just unilaterally doing that?
From the policy and strategic perspective, there is nothing that captured that area that said the government have the liberty to do this or to enforce this. The key thing is let us build.
Is there anything that says they can't specifically spells it out, so they know that if you try or somebody finds out that you're trying, then you could be liable?
Well, I would not be able to speak to that. But one thing I know is all through the document, there was no area that say that gives the government the liberty to do something like that. So it was not. So if they're not out to do it, which I'm not thinking they're thinking right now.
Is there a timeline to some of the activities of this policy? Just as you said, 2014 needed to be reviewed because certain things were not done. Is there a timeline to get some of those things done so that we don't have to come back to this particular system?
Absolutely. That was one of the concerns that we, the committee that were part of this review, we put our feet strongly on and say, no, we cannot come back in the next 5 years, and we're singing the same song.
Or 2 years.
Or in the next 2 years, so that, and that is why all the action items, there are specific tasks, specific action item that is we are expected to do, and we also put timeline, like the establishment of the National Cybersecurity Coordination Center, the NCCC, which governs like the umbrella of all the activities, working with various stakeholders and partners within the nation. This is the first thing, and I believe from our timeline, it was put to be between 0 to in the next 3 months, or at most 6 months. So that is also, so every of the initiative, because we have about a couple of initiatives under each pillar. And this initiative, and I think what we are, or the body, the coordinating body, which is the Office of the NSA, is expected to, to be, will I say, accountable for. Because we have, as committee, we have done our review, and we have said that, look, this has to happen. For this to really become a success story, this is the roadmap.
Okay. We have to thank you for coming on. I know that there are several areas that people will still need to look at this and feel some things are not that clearly spelled out. But maybe when they look at the end up CCC, who knows? But we do thank you for coming on. So
thank you. And Favor Mayole, I represent the private stakeholder, and I work with Access Bank as the group CISO.
Thank you very much indeed for coming on this morning. All right, let's quickly take a look at some comments coming through from you just before we call it a day or a morning, whichever way. Ahmed Abba Ghana says, talking about cybersecurity, incidentally, it is critical to have cybersecurity professionals in the country. This will go a long way to secure our financial system. Maybe it's a bank or two. Right now, we don't have cyber infrastructure to protect, but the SP is timely.
Well, ban anybody. That's the Twitter handle. Says, with all the cybersecurity Nigerian banks claim, Nigeria still lost a whopping 3 billion naira plus to cyber fraud. Many of which, if you walk into the bank, they will find anything possible to make it the customer's fault to remove themselves from being liable.
Cyber policy should be about actually talk about this. It's not my fault if my money gets away from the bank. Bank should be able to what? Guarantee me my money.
But if you didn't give someone your password or PIN or something.
If you didn't give away your PIN number, your OTP, or you give your phone to somebody that uses it.
About to start another
nobody
program
gives that away deliberately. They hack it. That's why they're hackers.
Please take over from there.
Now, he says, I'm totally in support of what the Archbishop said. Everyone residing in Nigeria, either as an immigrant or full citizen, should be issued an identity card, and the immigration should be given the full right to check people's identity anytime and anyone in Nigeria. Well, that would be interesting, considering the fact that we're all getting NINs now, including foreigners. But is that how that's supposed to work?
Well, maybe cyber has to do something on foreigners getting that. Edwin says there are 3 angles to Nigeria's insecurity: political, structural, and security coordination. Sign electoral reform bill into law, restructure the police into regional police, and NSA should coordinate security agencies better to engender trust in intelligence sharing. Markwa?
Well, Dr. Ikpemosa says mutual suspicion and absence of trust may affect institutional coordination on this matter. Looks like it was responding to someone else's tweet. Well, it looks like we're out of time. Was this from Olagunju Oladile there? And there's also one from Paul Lanio. We have to thank you all for sending in your tweets and comments. Hopefully, we will take more of them, just that sometimes, time runs short. But we have to thank you for sending them in and for watching. I'm Maokwe Yusuf.
I'm Ayo Makinde. Actually, I found that comment by Paul Lanio.
No, you were going to call yourself another name.
Amayo Makide, please do have a wonderful day.
I would like to hear what you think about this cybersecurity policy as well. I'm Chamberlain, so have a good one.